Hello, everyone. Welcome if you are joining our live. We're always happy to have you here. So, today we're going to be talking a little bit about CrimeCon, and I've got Big Amish with me. But before I bring him on, let's see what we have here. Okay, Nancy Grace. So, just a little bit of a background on CrimeCon. It actually started when you had two media executives. Their names were Chris and Kevin Balfi. Now, these guys were brainstorming a digital project for Nancy Grace. And while they were looking at an audience, they realized something, and that is that true crime fans were incredibly obsessed. But the thing is, they didn't have any single place to meet up where they could spend money. So Chris had run Glenn Beck's The Blaze, and so he already knew how to turn a loyal fan base into a massive cash cow. So what they did is they actually built CrimeCon, and today they are under the Fox Corporation. So basically, it's a kind of a cheap reality TV studio, meaning that people pay a fortune for a ticket to sit in one of these expensive ballrooms. And this all happens while Fox crews record the presentations for free. What they do is they package them up and they sell them back to people as a premium subscription on Fox Nation. So even the famous creator row is a little bit of a rigged game. Instead of having a level playing field for independent true crime YouTubers, there are heavily favored channels that are very cozy and they are partnered with Fox's network. So, what it does is it turns real world tragedy into a very highly profitable corporate machine. Hello, if you're joining me, I'm not seeing the comments, but let me have a look. So, basically, what happens is if you are any YouTuber that's trying to get onto the creator row at CrimeCon, it's quite expensive. Organizers actually audit your subscriber count just to see if you're worth their time. And then they hit you with booth fees. And these booth fees range from around $1,250 to $10,000. So you're basically handing over your digital freedom. And while you have all these small creators who are actually willing to pay out of their pockets just to get into this hall, Nancy Grace is treated like royalty. In fact, her being there brings the whole original scheme full circle. What happens is she gets massive main stages and exclusive VIP rooms, which are all engineered to act as a giant walking billboard for Fox Nation. So for Nancy, the convention is very low effort. She will sit in the ballroom, record weeks worth of highly emotional interviews, and she does this with grieving families. And she walks away with free premium content for her TV show. So Nancy is basically the queen of this entire trauma empire. And what she's done is she's turned grief into somewhat of an art form. Now, I think you all know how I feel about Nancy, but this show is not about Nancy. I just want to give you a little bit of a background as to what happens at CrimeCon. In fact, her entire brand stems from her tragedy where her fiance was killed in 1979. And I'm not trying to downplay that, but this happened almost 50 years ago. And she talks about it at any opportunity she gets. It's actually a brilliant psychological move because her using this tragedy gets any grieving family to kind of lower their guard around her. And what they do is they hand over their most painful memories. So Nancy will stand on her feet for hours and she'll meet with every fan in line. She'll even cry with them, take photos. So it looks very selfless, but it's actually a genius business strategy. So we've seen her do this on her show. Steve and Kristi have officially launched a registered nonprofit organization. And I want to just bring that up quickly before I bring Big Amish on. So bear with me. I'm going to just bring it up. Sorry, guys, give me a second. Let me remove Nancy. I think everybody's tired of looking at her anyway. So let me see. Let's do this. Sorry, guys. And okay, so here's the organization. I'm going to open it for you. Okay, you can see it. So they have launched this nonprofit organization called the Kaylee Goncalves Foundation, which does business as murder has a name. And they say that they are raising money to fund advanced forensic DNA testing and investigative genetic genealogy for families of violent crime who can't afford it. But now comes something interesting because on the board of directors, you have Nancy Grace and Chris Hansen, who have joined the victims' charity. So, in my mind, it crosses a massive ethical line because normally you have reporters and they're supposed to stay pretty neutral. But when they take seats like this, they are actually inserting themselves directly into the family's inner circle and they're gaining control over the narrative. So it creates a bit of a conflict of interest where they secure the first access to exclusive updates for their own shows, meaning they cut out other independent journalists and they keep the family dependent on them. So it also gives Nancy somewhat of a moral shield because whenever you have any critic who accuses her of exploiting a real world tragedy for TV ratings, well, then she can use her position on the board so she looks a little bit selfless. And today, before we bring Big Amish up, sorry about that, we're going to play a video. Now, Scott Reisch is from, I hope I'm saying that right, he's from Crime Talk, and he's basically doing the same thing. Even though he's supposedly an experienced lawyer who knows exactly how the law works, what he does is he completely ignores the official court files when he interviews the Goncalves family at CrimeCon. So instead of using his legal knowledge to explain that the state legally hid that IgG DNA away and that it was just an investigative tip, Roosh plays along with all of this and he's basically doing it to help his own show. What he's doing is he pulls these parents into a casual hallway interview and he does this to talk about their new charity and he lets them spread a story about the DNA that completely gets the law wrong. So, just like Nancy, Scott Reisch is using the conversation as a way to get viewers. And mind you, we have to remember that this DNA was not going to be used in the trial. So, before I get ahead of myself, welcome, Big Amish. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Big Amish, are you with us?
Yes, Wendy. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good
Nice to
afternoon.
have you here again.
I'm sorry? Is it-
How are you, Big
Oh,
Amish? Hope you're well.
I'm doing well. Thank you, Wendy.
Sorry for
Yes,
that
and how
long
about
intro,
you?
everyone. I hope you all got an idea of what is going on. Did that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yes,
That
it's a
mhm,
conflict of interest in a way because,
mm,
right, the public views Nancy Grace or the the mass media as individuals who are going to uphold the truth and seek truth and justice by taking on these roles. But is it the case? I mean, you're raising some valid points because, when you work for a large media conglomerate like Fox, what is their position? What's their narrative they want you to push? It's not always what the public wants. It might be something for commercial purposes, political purposes, or um, other purposes. When I say commercial, one is for the media, their media brand. The other thing is they could be pushing a specific type of technology that they want to
Mhm.
bring out. Uh, and I think maybe that's coming to the forefront. You brought up the
Is that the technology with the IgG? Well, I think we'll see that in the video,
yeah.
but
I'll look forward to it. Yes.
yeah, we'll see that in the video. So just I found it interesting that Nancy's actually on the board for this foundation because I wasn't aware of that until I had a little bit of look into who's on the board. And this kind of explains why she's so, if you ever watch her videos, she's very, I was watching one yesterday where she kind of lowers her tone when she talks to the families of the victims, but it doesn't feel sincere. It's almost very staged. I hate
Or
using that word. So
transactional, maybe transactional in a way.
transactional
Yeah.
would be a better word, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
it
no.
is a bit later. You know, um, I don't want to accuse her that she doesn't have any victim's interests at heart. I believe in some way she is trying to do something good, but also when you have any other independent YouTubers going to CrimeCon, and I kind of wonder why they're not allowed to talk, you know, and
Why is she
I
the
wondered,
gatekeeper? So
yes.
she's the gatekeeper. That's basically what you set out. What I understand, and that should be wrong. If anyone knows, the more eyes and ears and mouths you have discussing a topic, you could weed out
Mhm.
things. Debating is the key to a society that's basically has those freedoms to speech and talk, because not everyone knows everything. You find out, you make mistakes, you learn, and that's with everyone, including Nancy Grace. So why doesn't she allow other individuals, podcasters involved? It's a market, and they want to control it.
Mhm. And this foundation, on the surface, it looks very above board. They started advertising it on the page. Sorry, Jeff. Big Amish, is your volume a little bit soft there? Are you able to turn it up?
Oh yeah, let me hold on a second. Hopefully, could everyone hear me, or I could just move a little closer to the mic? Is that better?
Yeah. Does it seem better, Jeff?
Or should
So
I turn it up a little? Here we go.
if you can turn it up, it would be great.
Yeah.
I don't
Hold
know if I
on.
can do it from my side.
Let
So
everyone.
this foundation, I mean, on the surface, it does look like a good idea, except for the fact that they were told that they are not going to use that IgG at trial.
I'm sorry, I was preoccupied with trying to adjust this, but hopefully it's correct. You were mentioning the
It's
IgG
it's
and how.
it's
Yeah.
it's better now. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
So they were never going to use this IgG at trial, as far as I recall. They were told that it's just a tip. It's up to you to go and find the real evidence. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's because the IgG, um, I think in other jurisdictions, it it hasn't passed the legal scrutiny yet to to basically, one is, getting it admitted into court, and two, its reliability. Because if you
Mhm.
rely on it, eventually it could it could be eventually thrown out. And if you build your case on that, it could allow an appellate issue to basically, disintegrate your case. But
Why is that? Why is that? Is it because it's unreliable? Because it's very new?
it's all of what you just said. It is new. You have to, reliability also relies on being, you know, the, how it's tested. Can you replicate the same test by others, experts in that field? And if you can't replicate it with the same data that they used, then it becomes unreliable. So
Mm-hmm.
I think in what you raised up with Nancy Grace, if part of this is using IgG, it's creating, they're trying to create a movement in which IgG is acceptable nationwide. I'm assuming,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked into this, I apologize, or I may have, but if I'm not mistaken, that IgG is not accepted everywhere. So you might have a split in the circuits or in jurisdictions. Ultimately, what happens when you have splits or jurisdictions that use it or don't use it, and they don't use it because they say it's unreliable, it allows for basically it becomes a Supreme Court issue to kind of address it on a national scale. That typically
Mm-hmm.
how it's done. But but yes, to answer your question, it's the reliability. And even assuming you get reliability, let's assume, for example, it went to trial, just in this case, and let's assume for now, at least Idaho considers it a valid and they allow it, IgG. And if you put it, on trial, during cross examination, it could very well fall apart and you would see all the weaknesses on whether the lab, how it's tested, the quality control, all of those issues. Who is the tester, their qualifications?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a bias? Did they go to CrimeCon and talk to them? All of these
Yeah.
things would come up during a trial and much, much more. But I do believe, is it repeatable? Is the IgG testing able to be repeated by other experts who would do IgG work and
Yeah.
challenging it? And then ultimately a Supreme Court issue if there's splits in different jurisdictions to say whether it's reliable or not. And then the Supreme Court could say, look, to those states who want to use it, it could be one that where it's unconstitutional, they find it that it's unreliable. Two, they could find it that it's reliable, but they leave it up to the states to adopt whether they want to use that standard or not. But they would have to
Mm-hmm.
define standards. And that's what the
Yeah.
Supreme Court would probably step in and say, if you're going to use it, these are the standards that need to be met. The quality control, X amount of cells, or how how you obtain that information. They're going to set the standards for that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about on that. I mean, this has been a subject that's come up in this case um, a lot. I mean, probably you could say it's reliable for generating a lead, but
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they used a third party, a relatives
yes.
database to gain some of this. I
You're
apologize
gonna
because
see
this.
that in the video as well. Lucy, Jeff, that's fine. Go wild. Don't worry. We just start out slow as we go. We go along. So I think just quick recap. I mean, CrimeCon. I always used to think that it would be so amazing to go to CrimeCon, right? If it's fun. I
Yeah.
don't, I recall you misbehaving before, but don't worry, it's all good. This is very free chats in this channel. We don't worry about stuff like that. So I always wanted to go to CrimeCon because I thought it was such a great thing, but then it seems like it's so highly controlled. And when I went and looked as to you know this whole thing was built around Nancy. it just seems wild, like.
Yeah, and if she has the resources behind her with Fox, I mean that says a lot, doesn't it? Whatever they want to push. So they
Well,
have a lot
that's
of resources.
yeah, that's it's a lot of things going on there. Can you guys still see me? Are you okay? Did I do something wrong now? Sorry, I'm pressing buttons here. Sorry, I don't know what I did there. Okay, so let's move us over here, and then let's watch this video. I'm gonna have to stop and start it because I think this guy was already
Oh,
fighting with me.
Wendy, if you don't mind, I see Jeff H's question. It says the Concalves mentioned wanting to help those cases that couldn't afford the IGG process. Aha.
Mhm.
So here's the hook. We talk about resources. On one hand, you see a very generous and um, noteworthy purpose, right? It's a very the purpose for those who can't afford it. Wow, that could help solve a case. On the other hand, what are they really pushing? The more you use the IGG process, they're trying to make it standardized. They want it to be accepted. You see where it's
Mhm.
going? I'm just reading in between the lines because if that is the case, I'm just relying on Jeff's statement. If that's the case, if IGG is adopted, then the DOJ gets money, they fund it, all these resources come in of it
Mhm.
being used in variety of cases. And I'm assuming what company is at the forefront of this. You should look into it. That'll tell us a lot. Find out which companies are at the forefront of IGG, what their
Mhm.
relationship is with Steve G or anyone else, or Nancy Grace, with Fox, with the Department of Justice, or other potential Department of Defense contractors or DOJ contractors. That's what you want to look into. Then we could uncover really where this is going. But clearly,
Yeah.
there's a push for it to be standardized, and someone's going to be making money, and it's accepted into court. Until then, the DOJ and state prosecutors will be reluctant to use it as a trial evidentiary standard to be used.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely not the final say. Like we said it's just simply a tip, uh, especially in this case where
Well,
it
yeah.
was just used to provide a tip, not actually not actually get to the real evidence. But I think let's do this. Let's do this quickly. If you want, let's try and see if I can add this video. So I'm going to do that. Bear with me, guys.
Yeah, no
I think I
worries.
have to do that. And I have to do that. So put them on. Tell me if you can see it. And we'll go back to StreamYard. Is it okay? I'm going to add this one and then I'm going to make it full screen. So we'll just watch a little bit. Let's make it full screen here. And I'll put us on the side. Okay. All right. So we're just going to stop and start. I don't know how long it is. If anybody in the comments tells me, I'm not worried. They'll probably just tell me that I did something wrong. Okay. Let's go to the beginning. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, everything's good hearing
Okay.
wise, but
All right. So you just tell me when you want me to stop.
How are you doing?
I like your channel.
Thank
I like
you.
your
Yes,
view.
you cover the coworker case. That's
Yes.
our
You cover it from an
daughter.
educated,
Yes.
well-known.
Hey, sometimes I get mad at you though.
Say that one more. Say that one more time into the microphone.
You cover it from a well-educated fact point.
Yes.
And that's missing in YouTube a lot of times.
And I love watching you, but sometimes I'm like, I don't want to watch them tonight. Turn it.
Really? What do I say that upsets you?
No, I mean, you kind of play devil's advocate sometimes, which is fine. It's hard to take sometimes.
Well,
it's hard to take.
he does it from both.
Because all I want is just to hear that he's the worst person in the world. That's all I want to hear.
Well, I think he proved that by his guilty plea.
Yes, absolutely. So that's
Sometimes I know it's frustrating. The criminal justice system, the wheels move awfully slow.
She wants to hear he's the worst person in the world. Oh, wow.
Sometimes, but you have to be patient.
I know.
But by the end of the day, the truth, or a pretty darn close version of it, is going to come out.
Yeah, it will.
Whether through a trial or whether through a guilty plea, the truth comes out.
Yeah, and that's the message that people need to hear, because the days of getting away of these murders are going to get less and less and less, because this technology, we're learning about like how they can do hair samples without the follicle. There's 2 labs, but there's new technologies coming out, and we're going to scare the heck out of people.
Yep, these people are going down.
Between the technology, the license plate readers, the GPS, the phones,
CCTVs everywhere. Yep.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's
about Big Brother.
Amazing these days. They will track you down and get you.
It's good. We started a foundation. I don't know if we could give it to one.
Sure,
this is our foundation. Yeah.
And that's why they're there, because they started the foundation.
Yes. See, and it makes them, the foundation, it seems, is a way to use to promote the technology, right? And using victims to push and get it accepted legislatively. I'm sure they're going to be going to different states to see if their legislator would adopt the technology and use it into court. So that's one way of doing it. Or that's what it seems like. It seems like they're using a foundation of someone's death to push the commercialization of this technology.
Yeah, without that, they wouldn't have had any means to push it. Jeff, I agree with you. Look, I think any mother would feel that, but I think, honestly, I'm just going to disagree with you respectfully in that way, is that I don't really believe that. I mean, Steve himself in the beginning had a lot of questions about how this case was handled. And I mean, they watch a lot of people's shows, so I don't know. I think sometimes my feel is they wanted anybody to blame, anyone. But I just have a little bit of a different view on them. Sorry. Let's keep watching for a bit and see what they say next, because it's going to get a bit interesting here.
It's the Kayla Goncalves Foundation. Murder has a name, and we want to fund advanced DNA forensic testing, including IgG, for when the law enforcement runs out of funds and it winds up on a cold case. We will pick up the cost and pay for these accredited labs that we've partnered with.
There's literally thousands of cases waiting for funding.
Yeah.
Yep. I was just talking about that. Even sane kits. There's a backlog, at least in the state of Colorado, and they've tried to pass legislation, but most people don't realize that it's expensive to do DNA testing. It's not like you just drop it in, and it's a couple of day process to actually do the testing with multiple people doing the cutting, to do running it through the machines, to do the statistical analysis. Then you're like, okay, now we got it. Is there somebody in the CODIS system? Oh, there's not.
There's not.
Then you got to wait until maybe genetic genealogy comes in.
Yep.
And most people don't realize they just people. And it used to be, I remember we had a case where we were trying to prove a client innocent, and there was some testing that was new at the time, and it was like $100,000 to do the testing. So the price has come down. It's going to continue to come down, obviously.
Yes.
And there's going to be bigger and bigger samples and more people are going to
Yes.
be in the.
Do you want to comment about the size of the sample, anyone?
Yeah, people should talk about, because we're talking about the 10 cells, right? If we're talking about, they also mentioned just the issue of accredited labs. Chris, they talked about, I don't know which accredited labs they're talking about, because whatever labs they're referring to are the ones they're going to be pushing to be doing this. But it also raises a First Amendment issue, because if they're looking to use a device or DNA that then attaches to labs or other third party labs that have your DNA that you signed up socially for, and if the government has access to that, we're talking about a big brother on steroids here, because no one's privacy is then safe, and
Mm-hmm.
they could use it more than just what they're telling you. So don't forget, your DNA could tell your whole health history, could tell you certain markers that can make you sick or not. And even though they might say they're not going to look into it, they have that information if they want to. And I know I wouldn't want anyone to have that information about me. And I certainly don't want the government to have that information unless I actually consent to it in writing. But the concern is, this is Big Brother at a whole different scale. And if they could obtain it through garbage pulls or the like, this is a public emergency. So when they're using, as a grieving mother and father, I understand their point. But as a citizen who looks to uphold the Constitution and believes in it, I think we should be very, very concerned about what the slippery slope is here, is that we are all open to being, our privacy being invaded by what they're looking to do at the broader scale, the slippery slope part. And that is, every US citizen is exposed, their DNA is exposed, whether it's a garbage pull or however they're going to obtain it, that involves third party companies that you may have wanted your genealogy found out about. So that's the concern I have. Huge
It's a
concern.
big concern.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep watching here. Go for it.
Those databases,
Yep.
and they're going to find the people.
And that's another thing with our foundation. We really want to push the upload to GEDmatch, which is a forensic tool that investigators are allowed to use. So, any of these home DNA kits that you do for free.
Are they allowed to use it?
Jeez, I mean, I'm getting away. This is concerning. I don't know where she's going. Home kits. I mean, I don't know what she's trying to say. Like, okay, is she trying to push the use of, if everyone puts their DNA into these, sites, you upload or you send your DNA, that you're creating a database for the government, and just like social media information is used, your social media data is farmed, right? It has value. They're doing the same thing here, but I am very concerned of what I'm hearing, because it's very innocuous the way she's talking about. Oh, you just upload it, you give your DNA, and everything's hunky dory. But it really isn't, because that information could tell everything about not only you, but your family, your whole history, and future generations as well.
Yeah,
So that's
violation
not
of your
consented.
privacy, because what if your DNA is not uploaded? What if there was no DNA uploaded in this case? What would have happened then?
Well, then it came from, well, how did they obtain it? Is it just from the garbage pull? Which,
No.
yeah, is it, they used a relative, if I remember correctly, they talked about that. But see, the concern is, when when does it become a second search? One issue is, okay, did you consent? You gave your DNA, you personally gave your DNA. but that's you personally. You didn't ask
Mhm.
for you didn't ask for anyone to, look into the rest of your genes to tell you about your family. That's like a second search, in my
Exactly.
opinion. That's a second search in which you would need a warrant for. That's just my opinion. Everyone differs on it. But I think
Good
that's coming
points.
up in the Supreme Court anyway. I think this issue is coming up in the Supreme
It
Court.
is going.
So,
It is. Let's keep going here.
yeah.
You could upload it to GEDmatch, and it's controversial. I get it. You're not
It's a
going to,
process
get
of
everybody to do it.
elimination. People don't understand. IGG does not find the guy who did it. It finds the people who didn't do it. It really does that by getting close as you can to him through his family. But it's not them. They're not. It's like a lineup, and you say no, 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 no. None of those guys did it. That's what it is. So people think if they put it up there, they're going to be committed of a crime.
No, I mean, they have to go and find the people look at it and they look at all the tests, the little jumps on the little lines, and they say, oh, this is the allele, and this is an 11 and 12. And guess what? On the DNA sample that we found, this allele, it's an 11 and 12.
So he's
and
Italian.
you gotta have
Yeah.
Those are
so
what they can
many
do.
things. Yeah, we got a male and these
Yeah.
these
A
these
male
The
different.
process of elimination, and it's the best way that you could ask your case to be tried. You don't want eyewitnesses saying Steve was there. I'm pretty sure it was it. That those days are over, man. You want to have signs
Oh my
say
God.
you were there or you weren't there, or free your name, like you were saying.
No.
That's the kind of stuff you want. We're not even against it being there to be used to free somebody up. We want the truth. That's however we get to.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to. I've never met a DA that really wanted to convict innocent people.
No.
I mean, we
No.
want to make sure we get the right people.
And look
Absolutely.
stupid because it'll eventually get caught. You know?
As a parent of a murdered child, I 100% want the person who murdered my child. I don't want an innocent man in prison and the real guy out there just living his dandy life. No, absolutely not. Like, no. So, I mean, we were 100% about this is the right guy, and they told us early
I
on.
even went on
And,
record and I said, I haven't seen enough yet. They need to share more with me to understand. I need the dots connected. And once they showed us, the way that the sheik was pulled up and the splatter and all the things, and they're both, Kaylee, Maddie were there. He was on there. A cop couldn't have just dropped it. Impossible, because he couldn't have got them both there at the same time, because the way that it was aspirated and then pulling it up left that pattern of the sheaf there.
A void was on the bed when
Exactly.
the sheep
So I
was
was
picked
like,
up.
all right, we got 100% this. It's
was
over. It's done
planned
with.
it.
Let's go to court. And then we didn't get to go to court.
I understand. I mean, and well, if you watched, I mean, I was like, well, there could be some, but once the DNA came out, I was like, it's over.
It's over. It's
And,
over.
I mean,
On the
I'm a
sheet,
criminal
at
defense
the crime
attorney.
scene? Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know they came up with some statistical
Yeah.
number
Oh, yeah.
that,
Oh,
1 in 700,
5.37 octillion.
5.37 octillion that just,
I think a lot of people here, I'm going to try and see, I'm going to type in the chat, go and look at Audrey's channel, because this is a huge amount. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's very concerning that they're saying let's just rely on the DNA testing to tell us who the perpetrator is. Well, I mean, there could be problems with the DNA, whether it's the lab, the actual cells, because in this case with Brian Koberger, there wasn't a blood sample. There were like 10 cells, if I remember correctly, on that buckle, and then ended up increasing in size. But
And we don't know.
and that's touch DNA. That's just cells. We don't know how it got there. So if you're going, what he just said is an antithesis to our justice system. Having witnesses and a jury to weigh that testimony is the basis of our judicial system. We don't want to rely solely on technology, because then you're going to do away. If you could rely, and that's what I'm reading into it, if you can simply rely on DNA and technology, you don't need a jury system. You don't need a jury to weigh the evidence. You don't need a jury system to weigh what witnesses have to say, What if they say it's someone totally different? You don't have a right to bring those witnesses, according to Steve G. I'm just saying what he said is you don't need any witnesses. That's what he said, if I'm not mistaken. That I find shocking because that is against everything I believe in. The others, you could use it
Completely.
as a tool. It's great as a tool, but you can't. You have to be able to cross-examine all that information. And if they're witnesses, if there are no witnesses, then you kind of have a unique situation. Can DNA alone convict? I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that. I'm not, but with no witnesses now, and no blood, and no motive, right? Not even near the crime scene. There was no motive. Didn't know the victims or the home, apparently. No blood of his. You have cells
Nothing.
that could be cross-contaminated. You could have handed it down in different ways, passed down, just touch DNA. Someone could have, however it gets there. Again, getting into the weeds of it, that's where the issue of reliability is a concern. But if you're saying touch DNA is enough to convict, in my opinion, totally disagree. And I think if that's the only thing you have is 10 cells of touch DNA on a buckle, not even the weapon, what does a buckle mean on a sheath? When you don't even have conclusive proof of the type of weapon used, is that enough to convict somebody? I would much rather have people who committed crimes go free than have an innocent person go behind bars because of it.
That's true.
That's the sad
Just
part.
to answer, Jeff said we'll learn more about the type of person Brian was at Washington State University. The thing is, Jeff, my thoughts on that is that was a complete smear campaign against Brian Koberger because you had a bunch of students that complained about him grading them very harshly on papers. That was as much as I saw. So, I guess we'll see. But as far as I know, back in Pennsylvania, there were absolutely no complaints against him. So I guess we're going to have to see what happens with that. But yeah, let's not get into that now. I guess that'll come out. I mean, if anybody actually filed a legit complaint against him, not, oh, he was following me to my car. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or
Yeah.
he seemed, the most I've heard is he seemed intimidating. Well, that'll account for at least 80% of the world's population. They kind of seem intimidating or crazy.
If I could just add to it for the WSU issue, it's not so much Brian Koberger admitted he committed the crimes. The WSU lawsuit is going to be centered on the duty of care and the negligence of WSU in not stopping the individual from furthering his actions once they knew or should have known he had the propensity to cause harm to others, and specifically 1122 King Road and the residents therein. So that's really that's where you're going to get information, and you're going to probably hear individuals who filed complaints. You're right. So you're right. Maybe we shouldn't get into that so much, but that we could talk, at another time or as that continues.
As that comes up, I guess we'll talk about that. Let's play and see what they say here. Hold on.
Which there's not enough people in the world or enough planets with the people on the Earth.
Yeah.
So you take the total top population and all the planets, you still wouldn't have enough to figure out that's who it is.
We're pretty convinced. That's pretty convincing.
And I still get people.
Oh yeah.
Somebody sent me something on my Twitter the other day. He's innocent. He couldn't have done it by himself. Blah 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 blah. And I responded back, "You're crazy.
You're crazy.
Okay. It doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what you can prove in court with legal and competent evidence. And his DNA was there. My DNA wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right? None of these people's DNA.
No.
It was his.
Yeah.
What are the odds? It happened to be on the K bar that he bought,
Yeah.
the sheath.
Oh, no. And they didn't prove that either.
Yes. Yeah. And just to address, I think, Jeff, I'm reading the comment. He talks about the DNA extracted contained a lot of DNA. It was not a trace amount of DNA. It was 500 times more DNA than we generally see in our low quantity unit cases. This is by David Middleman, Othram Inc. Now, to be fair, Othram wasn't part of the motions. Othram never provided a declaration, to my understanding. I could be wrong. If I am, please correct me, Wendy or anyone. So
Not that I know.
anything David Middleman says, here or otherwise, is all hearsay. And of course, he's going to be saying something that's positive because he's probably one of the labs pushing to get this standardized. It's in his
Mhm.
commercial interest to get this done.
I agree. It's
Right?
That
Like
you
I always
bought.
said,
That
I
he
had
has
mine.
an account buying.
exactly.
Yeah, you actually had one. I remember that. You had the
Yeah.
military background.
Yeah, I got that the summer of '88. I said,
Yeah.
here's mine.
Yes.
When
But
that
was
came
one of
out,
the first time that I actually ever saw a K bar, and I was like,
That's why
wow.
she didn't like you. You had the keyboard.
No. I was definitely like,
No.
Wow,
she liked
that's-
you. We listened.
that's it. That's what it looks like.
I remember it was spooky.
Yeah. No, I remember being like,
Yeah, that's
whoa.
why we asked. We're like, you guys check to see if you ever had a hunter or fishing license? And they're like,
it's not
what's
a
your
hunting
point?
knife. It's not a fishing
and I was
knife.
like, it's Idaho. Our jury's going to be wondering, like, do you have a history of like some kind of purpose with a weapon like this? And he never did. And he never had an alibi. Like,
that's we'll get into that as well because I did see something where somebody actually mentioned that there's no way to determine what kind of weapon was used. But they're talking about his alibi for having a K-bar.
Millions of people have K-bar knives.
You need it. I guess I need to have an alibi for having a kitchen knife. I don't know.
Yes.
come on, people. He's not even trying to tell you where he was. Looking at the stars, do you buy that?
Turned his phone off.
and listen, as I say, after 32 years, and I have to tell this to clients sometimes,
You're a busy man.
there are no coincidences in criminal law. Like, what are the odds his phone just happened to turn off at
Right, during the
12:32
time,
or whatever it
Yeah.
was,
Bad luck.
and then turned right
100%
back
bad.
on?
Bear in mind, they only seized his phone 7 weeks after this. So I did do a video on this, and it would be impossible. But I think we're going to get into the phone things. Lucy's pretty clued up on that, and so are you, Big Amish. Is there a way to determine if the phone was manually turned off? No.
To my, I mean, the only way you would know that is you would have to have a witness to him doing it or him telling you he did it. Other than that, I don't see how that's done.
Do you know how many times my phone randomly switches off? I don't know if any of you have had that happen, but you could be, and I've had it happening when I'm not even touching the phone. So I'm just speaking from personal experience. Your phone sometimes switches itself off. Not that I'm looking for an excuse for him, but I'm saying that if you go back, I did explain a little bit about that. Although I'm not going to claim to be a phone expert, but you know, this is the whole thing. His phone was switched off during the time. And
Would that be the same as losing a signal? Because if you lose the signal, how would they
it
determine?
could be the same thing. If you're
Yeah.
out at night and you lose signal, could it do the same thing?
It should be because you're disconnecting. So how would they know the
Mhm.
phone is on or off unless you're by a Wi-Fi spot, right, to keep you kind of. But if that was the case, it would have came up. So yeah, losing a signal, because I know in the DC area, you know, where you have intelligence operations going on, or the CIA, you're going to lose your signal in certain areas, and there's certain dead spots where you drive through. So, and that's in the city. So, and that's by design.
Mm-hmm.
So that does happen, and I agree with you. I think losing the signal equals, you know, someone concluding that they shut off the phone, and you can't tell. Was it the signal drop?
Even if the phone was switched off, it still doesn't prove him being at the house.
It does not. It does not. What is it? They're just trying to tell you by shutting off the phone during that time period. It was during that time period that the prosecution alleges that the crimes occurred. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's one fact that you could, by itself, is meaningless, right? Like, because you
Less
don't
than
even know.
circumstantial. Less than circumstantial.
Yeah, you have to build a lot more. Yeah, but you're right. I think that it begs the question: the phone dropping or turning off, even if it's turned off, what does that mean? Turn off the phone a lot of times. Maybe your phone battery life is going low. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for this to be explained.
Yep. Okay, let's watch.
Turn back on.
You know, what are the odds? You know, and you know that he'd been.
You know, that's a good question. I should ask AI and just put in the known facts that nobody disputes and say,
here's
what
the
is
thing.
statistical?
The narrative for people that are pro burgers or that believe that he's innocent, they just discard that information. Say it's not true. That's not true. He didn't turn off his phone. Well, there's documents.
It's not
They lied.
recording.
The police lied. So you can't defute. You can't dispute. Like if somebody's going to stand there and say everything the police said was a lie, these are all lies. Okay.
Are you tired of your YouTube channel not getting the attention it deserves? Building a YouTube channel can be a very lucrative.
Well, you know, we tried to go through. You know, we pulled all the pleadings in the case. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, there's going to be surprise." No, it's not. And his DNA was abandoned at the scene.
Yeah, he was trying to say he had a privacy access to it. And I love what Hitler said. He's like, in the crime scene?
He's
you,
like,
you think they needed to contact him and ask for his permission?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
that
they
makes
didn't
no
challenge anything at the crime scene because they knew it's abandoned under the law.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they were trying to come up with this unique, and I get it. They're doing their job.
Yes.
We got to
We always
we
give
gotta
her
let
credit.
I think
mean,
she did a great job on
She did a good job for what she did, but she also had to have that conversation with him. And this is why I know a lot of people, the photographs and things like that, and the whole world doesn't necessarily need to see it. They need to be
the jury,
tastefully. But I think
courtroom.
people need to see what true evil can do.
Yes.
And so when they're making laws and legislation or saying we're going to repeal the death penalty or something,
Yeah,
no,
there's a lot
this
of
is
truth to
what
that.
this is what
This is the
it's
ugly
for.
part of
This
it.
is the ugly part. This is what evil is.
Yeah.
And I believe that obviously they looked at the evidence and they said once they see these photographs,
They'll
it's
turn
over.
on him.
It's over, and they're going to give you death. And he knew that. He was smart enough to realize.
And the prosecutor hid that from us. Didn't let the other families know what happened to my daughter, and didn't let me know what happened to theirs. Because if we all would have got on the same page, we all would have
what
said,
happened to Kaylee because what was it?
gag order?
The gag order. So we found out
You get to murder in privacy now.
2
in
days
America.
before
You get a
sentencing.
gag order and you get to murder with
2
total
days before
privacy.
sentencing. We found out how
Yeah.
many times she had been stabbed, where at.
different
Up
weapons.
until then, we didn't know. We didn't know that her teeth were knocked out.
Okay, that line here. Did they go and identify their daughter's body, guys?
Did they identify? Say that again.
Did they not go and identify their child's body?
It raises that question. You're right. That's why you raise. Wouldn't they have seen what happened to her daughter? That is an excellent question, Wendy, because for them to be kind of dumbfounded days before that plea, because that's what it sounds like. That's when they got the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, something is just not smelling right at all. You're 100%.
You're right, Lucy, as well. This is just wild. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Well, could I just say one quick thing? and
Sure.
people on different sides of this is fine. When they're talking about the DNA on the sheath, let's be clear what reasonable suspicion is. So if you see blood on a sheath, you could say, okay, that gives me reasonable suspicion that this is part of the crime. At least it's
Mhm.
plausible, right? That's one thing. You
Yeah.
could test that blood. What we're talking about is some small amount of cells, non-blood, non-fluid,
Mhm.
okay, that you cannot see with your own eyes. Because usually when you see a crime, or people usually use the term reasonable suspicion, there has to be indicia of a crime. When you look at that sheath, one thing is to say, I see blood on it and test the blood areas. It's a different thing to say, let's test whatever they want on it for touch DNA, okay, which begs the question is it's more, and that's why I think they're raising the question, or Ann Taylor had raised the question, there should be a right to, there's a right to privacy here, because you don't know how those cells could have gotten there. The blood could only happen if you were physically present and bleeding at some point there. Those cells, in order to determine those cells, you have to, number one, find those cells, and number two, create the genealogy, which they did, and use different resources. In addition, so you had these hyper skill technology applications in order to determine that. If, and even if true, okay, I'm not saying it isn't or is, they have to get over the hurdle of cross contamination, that someone else could have just touched Brian Koberger's jacket, for example, or pants, and eventually touched the sheet, or could have been passed on to somebody else. There could be cross contamination just on those cells alone, because it's such a minuscule amount. Obviously,
Mhm.
what did he do? Clean the sheath before, after he committed the crimes, but there was blood splatter on the sheath itself. So I'm
Mhm.
just trying to show the distinct. There's a distinction between those cells, the touch DNA on the buckle versus blood on the sheath, and how it's viewed and how it maybe should be viewed. It's one thing to say, okay, there's blood, let's test it. Is it his? Okay,
Mhm.
that's not an invasion of privacy, because it's all there. They're trying to argue that anything, any DNA that's on that DNA sheath is abandoned property. So there could be 100 other people, there could be other DNA on there, touch DNA, that could have been, I'm just saying, in different cases, there could be so much DNA of other individuals unrelated to any crime, but simply because they
Mhm.
know the person or touched the object at some point in time.
Anybody, anybody could have touched it,
Yes.
and
And it just doesn't go direct. So someone could have touched it a week before, and then someone else could have touched it, or touched Brian, uh, his jacket, for example. It doesn't have to be him. Going through his jacket, if someone wore his jacket, it's going to have some cells in it. So going through the sleeve of a jacket, you pull your hand out and then you touch it. So there's so many ways that could be brought about. I mean, we don't have to go so much, but I just want to establish that touch DNA doesn't come from simply just touching it with your finger. Okay, it could have been
no,
someone else using a shirt, a jacket, gloves,
it actually
anything.
acts like a particle of dust, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. 10 cells, however it could be done. I don't know enough about it, but cross contamination is the issue, and how it gets you know disseminated. So it doesn't have to be the first contact, Brian Kober. It could have been someone using his jacket or shirt weeks, months before, years before, or that, and someone touching it, then touches a sheath that they used. There you go. I mean, that's why it's so critical to establish in my opinion, at least in this one, is you don't have witnesses, you don't have anything, and you don't certainly have a motive. Not that you need a motive for murder. There could be,
And my thing is always, if he committed this crime, he would have been injured at some point. How do you go in there, magically leave one tiny piece of trace DNA, but
yeah.
nothing else? Nothing. Not a footprint, not a handprint, no sweats.
Just on the buckle. So he cleaned up everything perfectly. No, it clearly required other individuals, in my opinion. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what makes this, it's either the most perfect crime committed by someone who they claim has a mental issues. So, at least they were
Can you
pushing
imagine him going in there in 7 minutes,
yeah.
doing everything he did, right?
perfect.
I mean, they apparently had somebody reenact this and
Yeah.
get
You
in, change. Do you know how much clothes he would have had to have had on?
Oh,
Not to, I mean, even if it's cold, right? You would
yes.
sweat at some point. Like that intensity of committing this kind of crime you would break out in a sweat. Doesn't matter how fit you are. And when it told me he didn't sweat somewhere, didn't find any of that, no footprints, no fingerprints.
No, he kept his gloves and his whole outfit to keep all the.
Have you ever worn a pair of gloves? And, even if you wear gloves, right? Now, I know they've talked a lot about, we're going off topic here. So they talk a lot about his OCD and that he wore gloves a lot. Now, I do the same thing. Whenever I'm working in the kitchen, I always wear gloves. Now, you could barely touch something, and that glove always has a hole in it somewhere, right? So, doing this to 4 students, and you want to tell me those gloves remained intact? I'm not buying it.
Or even the if you're using a glove, there'll be some sort of material from a glove or your clothing in that scene somewhere, especially the brutality that we understand occurred. So even if you're not going to get, you're going to get these fibers, microfibers, something to tell us
Anything. And Lucy brings up a good point, like that Brian drive to the scene clad in black, right? Remember, he left his apartment where there was that accident. So he would have had to line his car, the steering wheel, the floors. Do you know how long it would have taken him to change out of that outfit? Right? Put it in a bag, dispose of the knife. I mean, why the rush? Why the rush?
Yeah, why the 7? Yeah, if he didn't look, if he didn't care about crossing paths with Dylan Mortensen, that should tell you everything. How I mean, he according to Dylan Mortensen, if I remember correctly, she didn't say he was in a rush. I mean, there was no.
Why
he
the
wasn't
rush?
running.
And that's something I never understand. He comes down, supposedly goes after Zana, right? And I still don't believe any of this happened in the house. That's just my opinion. Comes face to face with Dylan. Why spare her?
Yeah, it goes
That
against.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it goes against what a perpetrator would do. So yeah, you're right. You're going to leave witnesses after you committed 4 brutal unalivings. You're right. It doesn't pass the smell test.
Not at all. Let's keep watching.
We didn't know that her facial bones were broken. We didn't know that she was stabbed 24 times to her face. We did not know any of that.
And that's why a jury would have given him death.
We found out 2 days before the sentencing. We were like, we're writing victim impact statements. Can we at least know the full impact? it doesn't break that down for you on a death certificate. And at that point, that's all we had was our death
So we
certificate.
knew a lot of the
We didn't
facts.
have our
We knew
autopsy
about the
report.
gag and the choking and stuff like that, but we didn't know. And the thing is, you're begging a prosecutor to tell you what happened to your kid, and they're asking you to make decisions. Do you support this? I'm like, I don't know what. Tell me what happened. I don't get how you can kill people and think you have a right to privacy. It doesn't make any sense.
He had a lot of rights. He had a lot of rights going through that court system. Everything I heard was his rights, his rights, his rights.
And that's I understand it's frustrating, and but you guys did what victims should do, and that's be at every court appearance. Let them be known, okay? Because I can tell you from the defense perspective, the worst thing you hate is when the victims show up.
They told us that early on. They're like, we hate seeing that. Put a face on a crime. We want it to be a faceless crime.
There at every one, then we said.
And we're like, all right, you tell us the most we can do, and we will do it. We are there. You do, and you hustle. You're like, I've been gone for a couple of days, been in court, and I'm like, go for it. I like educated people saying and clearing things up, because I had a case that nobody was clearing things up. And that's so frustrating to have nobodies with fan fiction narratives read that they don't understand. They're, Latin and Greek. And I'm like, I just need a leader to say, what the heck is going on? This is ridiculous. So I appreciate those guys that can actually lay it out and clear these things up. And if they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen, but at least it's out there.
Well, in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case, listen to you than what we were learning from the prosecutors.
I hired a lawyer because we literally like, what's going on? And you're not telling us. And plus we knew there was confusion on that little community. They didn't know what was going on. They weren't prepared for a crime like this. And I was like, we're going to round up the troops. We're going to get the FBI. We're going to get the governor to give money. We're going to do whatever it takes because this case ain't going cold.
Yeah.
And you only got so much time to get people rallied. And it can just be one witness that sees one thing that can be like, go check that other camera. And that's what we're hoping for.
And I know the process can be frustrating, and the balancing of the defendant's rights versus the public and the family's right to have resolution.
Let's talk about the defendant's rights, Big Amish.
Yeah, okay, so the defendant's right to a fair trial, to basically cross-examine witnesses or the evidence. And their right to remain silent. They don't have to explain anything. They also have the right to get the information.
I think he remained silent because he knew what he was walking into.
Yeah. And to be fair, just to address also another issue, just to be fair to the prosecution, you could have more than one perpetrator, right? So if their position was Brian Kober, it doesn't mean that there weren't others. To be fair to them, even though I think they're wrong, but to be fair to them, that's their kind of position. And I think some of the evidence comes out that way. But his right to get information from the Brady material, exculpatory information and documentation and interviews, it seems like, at least from the Goncalves' position, they found out information, according to Kristi Goncalves, 2 days before the sentencing? About am I right? Did I hear that right?
That's what they said.
That is.
It's play and see what they say, yeah.
But you got to go through that process, and I know it's painful for you, but ultimately the truth comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And for people to say, "Oh, he didn't do it," like he pled guilty 4 times plus the burglary.
Mm-hmm.
People don't plead guilty to consecutive life sentences unless they did it.
Yeah, there's these fringe cases where people plead to something that they didn't do, but they're not.
Okay, yes, this is something that people say a lot, right? They say you won't plead guilty if you didn't do it. How many people do plead guilty to a crime that they didn't commit?
Well, taking a plea, it's over 90-something percent, 95% taking pleas as opposed to going to trial. And how many people take a plea when they didn't do it, the innocent, I don't know what the percentage is on that, but there's a reason why people take pleas even if they are innocent. And we kind of talked about that in our last show we did together. And I think they go into that. And we talked about that before this CrimeCon
Mm-hmm.
conference, which is the Alford plea, and how I presented the possibility. Again, I'm saying I know, but based on what I remember seeing in the plea itself, taken in the allocution, that it was a skeletal plea. He
You're going to
just,
see he's going to talk about it now.
yeah,
Let's see where he talks about it.
It's like a one-off, and they're like, I can't defend myself. I was a druggie. I have all these other.
I need to get out of jail. They're offering me a misdemeanor fine. I'll take it. I get that. We're not talking about a speeding ticket though, where you you're speeding and they give you a defective headlamp, right? We're talking murder where you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison.
Alford plea. They wanted to do an Alford plea, and we were like, I rallied everyone and said, we ain't doing this.
I wish, and this is my own, we saw it in the Chris Watts case, and I like it, particularly in federal court. The judges will say, tell me in your own words what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it takes away any doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, we wanted that too. And it would have been easy because of the way that Kaylee was killed. He would have given an explanation that an expert would say, yeah, that fits. That is the weapon that's missing. That fits the damage. And only the person who did this would know that, or an investigator.
Yeah.
But for Thompson to gaslight the whole community and say, oh, well, there's no way for us to know he's telling the truth. Like, don't lie in my face. Yeah, I'm not the family. You're going to get away with this. You lie to my face. And I literally told him multiple times, I will go to the media and I will tell everyone what you did, and I will hold you accountable for it. So that's what I'm doing right now, talking. I told you, you have the right way to do it, and you can do it another way. And he did it the other way. So now I'm here saying, you gaslit everyone. You lied in our face. You could have got the truth. You were just lazy, or you had it mode 3 times. I did this right in front of your faces, and you guys all look like idiots. I stalked him. I got right up there. I got into the house, and then he would have had to go tell the university every single time he did is documented now. You just got, this murder just went 23 times different stalking events, and now it's just going to...
Now we're going to talk about the 23 stalking events.
right,
Okay, because
WSU.
he was spotted in the area 23 times, right?
Well, driving,
They
well,
were
he's
both
mentioning, tell me if I'm not wrong. He's saying 23. I don't know where he's getting that number. I remember at least the pings, there were 12 events in which they found, at least the prosecution was alleging he was in the area 12 times. The 23, he's mentioning stalking. I'm assuming this also includes what he's raising in the WSU lawsuit, because this is news to me. I've never heard 23 times. I'm only assuming that there were events at WSU that he's trying to combine together. Does that make sense, or am I wrong? Anybody do you know the answer?
You're correct. I mean, being in the area 23 times, okay, I think they took that from his phone records and from the traffic stops. But being in the area doesn't mean that you're stalking anybody.
Yeah, and no, if I'm not mistaken, the coverage area includes even if you're in Pullman at WSU, because that's only 8 miles away. I think the coverage of those pings goes to, I forgot how many miles, maybe 18 miles. So clearly within the zone. So you don't know where he was technically under those pings.
No, like Lucy even said here, he's talking about the 23 that brings Brian's phone, used a tower that stopped short of servicing that address by about 100 meters. So,
the cat.
yeah.
Okay.
But they're going to talk about the stalking here. Let's go.
Just make us look super unsafe. And they're like, don't even talk to him. Zip it. We got enough. Put it to bed.
If you got 5 minutes with him, with Koberger, what would you say or do?
I wouldn't talk at all. I'd just start tearing up.
Pounding on him?
Pounding. Yeah.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
If that was my daughter, I'd do the same thing too.
Yeah, that guy has it coming. He's got it. And
Listen to this.
word is it's coming.
He's not going to make it to be an old man in prison. I mean, eventually he's going to get out of his little protective custody and requesting his vegan meals and all that good stuff.
Gin Pop's going to be a pop of some sort. And,
Wow.
he picked on a small community. You thought we were a bunch of idiots. He came from the city. He came out here and I've heard about his research paper that he did on the community because there was another murder in there and they never caught him. So he went there. He thought he had the right place. He picked them. And he's going to find out. He's going to find out if they're the right community or not.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm so sorry for your loss. I couldn't imagine, I've got a daughter, Annika.
There was another murder.
He picked on a small community. You thought we were a bunch of idiots. He came from the city. He came out here and I've heard about his research paper that he did on the community because there was another murder in there and they never caught him. So he went there. He thought he had the right place. He picked them. And he's going to find out. He's going to find out if they're the right community or not.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm so sorry for your loss. I couldn't imagine, I've got a daughter, Annika, she's basically a stepdaughter. I mean, I couldn't imagine, she was college age when all this went down. She was in college.
Let's go.
That's what he said there.
And then he would have had to go tell the university every single time he did just make us look super unsafe. And
with him, with Koberger. What would you say or do?
I wouldn't talk at all. I'd just start tearing up.
Pounding on him?
Pounding. Yeah.
I get it.
Mhm.
If that was my daughter, I'd do the same thing too.
Yeah, that guy has it coming. He's got it. And
Listen to this.
word is it's coming.
He's not going to make it to be an old man in prison. I mean, eventually he's going to get out of his little protective custody and requesting his vegan meals and all that good stuff.
Gin Pop's going to be a pop of some sort. And he picked on a small community. You thought we were a bunch of idiots. He came from the city. He came out here and I've heard about his research paper that he did on the community because there was another murder in there and they never caught him. So he went there. He thought he had the right place. He picked them. And he's going to find out. He's going to find out if they're the right community or not.
What is he saying here? Is he threatening him?
Well, as a father, I could understand, losing your daughter, you're looking for retribution. Okay, that's one thing. But you have like this concerted effort between both of them. One is the attorney, Scott, saying he's going to get out of his protective custody at some point in a general population. And that's where that's where the danger really lies. And then you have Steve G saying did he say it's in the works or it's it's basically, he is sending a message.
He's
also
much
saying,
like Olivia did. I mean, look, I understand it, but
yes,
you
yeah,
know,
the
it's
PDF,
that-
when he said it's the same thing, but it kind of works. I think potentially it works either what they're saying, but it also could work the reverse, in which, because they're saying this, it allows BK to petition the warden to say, look, if in fact they're trying, he's being released or something, I think where my position is he's not, he's in Witzig. But having said that, assuming he's in protective custody in the jail, what do you do if you have these overt kind of threats or innuendos towards his safety? They have to be very, very concerned about it, at least the jail and the warden. So I don't think he's getting released in the general population. But it's concerning either way. And you're right. So what are your thoughts about it?
yeah, it is sending a message pretty much like Olivia did with her victim impact statement, branding him, if in fact
As a PDF, right? Was she the one?
in prison. Yeah, she was the one in her victim impact statement that called him a pedo, basically. So, and yeah, imagine Lady Original Sophia, how are you? Yes, she does. work in the federal courts. That's what I was also saying in the beginning. These people, they're part of the cult that is CrimeCon. Let's see what he says here about this plea. I'll see if it comes up here.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I couldn't imagine, I've got a daughter, Annika, she's basically a stepdaughter. I mean, I couldn't imagine, she was college age when all this went down. She was in college.
What school? University of Arizona. Wow, that's a really good one too.
So, yeah, I mean,
Breeze down to Baylor. I think they play against Arizona. Yeah. In my head, I was doing all kinds of stuff.
I know, but it was not worth it. No.
Yeah. I was like, I had some crazy ones. I mean, I had like drones and all kinds of things. I was like, the community rallied and everyone demanded, that we got answers, and we got them. And it was a shared responsibility. We had the FBI coming in there. We had private labs coming in there. We had multiple states. It was a beautiful thing in the big picture of how they responded, and we got to the truth. But it was very difficult, and that's why our organization is taking the worst moments of that and saying, could we take a case that was abandoned because IGG didn't exist at the time and go relook at those and get that lead investigator to resubmit it, and then we just complete the circle that this is all their own work. We're just helping fund it. We're not trying to take over an investigation. We're not hotshots. We don't know anything. We're using our mics to help you get the funding to help that family, so then they get answers.
You're making a difference.
That's exactly and our daughter's name.
Where can people go to support your organization?
And
Murder Has a Name.
Yep, Murder Has a Name, because people nowadays want to censor themselves, pew and unaliving, and we're like, you know what? It grabs your attention, and it's hard. Like you said, if we sanitize everything, these kids that do these school shootings, they don't ever see the ugly side of doing this behavior. They see girls sending them and them getting all this popularity and all this attention, and we're creating an environment that breeds bad things. And as a parent, I'm trying to say, hey, how do we make these guys look like the monsters that they are?
Well, and like I said, that's why I understand and appreciate, trying to keep the photos, but some of those need to be shown so that people can see what evil can do. And like I said, no disrespect to you or the other victims, but people.
Well, they're making like we wanted to see images of the bodies, and nobody really did. Nobody wanted to see that.
Right. But I think by doing that, though, by sealing it, it's what's next to the bodies, right? No one, you're right, because you get an understanding of what happened if you get the rest of the information. But yeah, why is he? If he's going out on this foundation and raising, I mean, it seems like, right there, you're going to have to get involved and provide information. What he should. I mean, the pictures should be public, in my opinion, because of the nature of this event. And I know that personally it would offend me if I was in his shoes as well. But if he's talking about using his daughter at the forefront and trying to push this IGG technology, that the pictures should also be relevant. But that's just my opinion.
Complete transparency. Let's go to this part.
Need to see that and say, one time you want to go soft on something like this, this is what happened. This was not evil exists. People need to know it. They need to stop acting like, we're going to, like you said, sanitize everything and, we're going to make sure we have well, a fair trial is the truth coming out. And so
we went into legal libraries. We got the special legal AI, and we said, has there ever been a case that couldn't go because they couldn't find an unbiased jury? And it's never even happened. It's never happened. You can get a biased jury where they come in there with a preconceived motivation of like writing a book or something like that's definitely happened. But there's never been a case where.
Well, I talk about that all the time, and sure, it should have been a change of venue, made complete sense. And, obviously moving into the Capitol, there was going to be easier to find it. But you're not going to find people who didn't. The requirement is you don't have to find people that lived under a rock and have never heard about the case. It's just that they can go into with an open mind, listen to the evidence, reserve judgment till they hear all the evidence, follow the court's instructions, and make a decision if the prosecution proved their case. And like I said, the defense knew they were going to prove their case. Otherwise, there never would have been an offer of let's make a deal.
Exactly. Yeah. It got to the moment of truth. They're going to kill you. We got the shooting squad because we found out about how they have a protocol where you don't drink water for like 48 hours, don't eat any food, your veins collapse. So the guy in Idaho has they've been trying to put him down since the 80s. And he's found a way around it. He's hacked the system. So we're like, got to do something because we're going to look like idiots if we can't put this guy down. So they did the firing squad and they updated the laws and we did everything. But then we just got to one moment where.
So they're saying here they specifically built the firing squad for Brian Koberger, and we know they did that.
The firing squad would have been, that's how they used the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know. I mean, this part is all new to me. I just remember.
Somebody moved your comments, but I am going to address that in a separate video. I'm still working on it. So yeah, don't worry. We are going to be talking about that. It's a whole nother deep dive. So yes, they use the firing squad in Idaho. Well, now. So they specifically built it, as far as I know, for Brian Koberger.
Okay. That I didn't know. So yeah, I didn't know the death penalty phase, but not having a motive, by itself could be, even if this case went to trial, not attaching him to the house and not having a motive could have been a basis to remove the death penalty as well. But anyway, it's not there. But if they were priming the firing squad, I did not know that. I apologize for not knowing that. So
no, this is as far as I know. Could be wrong. Anybody correct me? But they allocated. I don't know how much it was to build the firing squad.
Who would be? What does the firing squad consist of? Where would they get the members to the firing squad? Is that from the Idaho National Guard? Is that I mean, it would. Yeah, this is kind of unusual. I'm just brainstorming, trying to understand, because to me that also plays a role. Who are you getting to?
Apparently, the firing squad execution chamber officially began in May of 2025. So the first law was in March 2023, where he authorized the use of a firing squad. Wow. So basically, they originally said it's only permitted as a backup method if lethal injection drug couldn't be found.
Interesting. This is a whole new. Yeah, I'm going to delve into this after because I would want to know how do they get the personnel for the firing squad? How many individuals are involved? Their training, their background, everything, because
I think as I looked,
it rubs me the wrong way. Just so you know, firing squad. I just didn't know that they had that. I knew they had the death penalty, but I just didn't know about the firing squad.
Yeah, that's quite bad. I mean, okay, I'm not for the death penalty. That's just my personal opinion. Never have been. But everyone's got their own opinion on that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Well, I'm against it as well.
I've never liked it. Anyway, let's go.
He bailed out. I can only say that we tried everything.
You guys are making a difference. Sorry, it had to go through all this to do that, but like I said, I couldn't imagine, burying a child. That's, my worst nightmare. I've got I just couldn't imagine. But
How
you're
many
gonna make
kids?
I've got two of my own,
Two girls?
and then three with Kristen here, and
You
so
adopted her.
yeah. So it's just one of those things where I couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
Right?
Kayla was like our adopted. We took her out of country. We had,
Maddie.
yeah,
Not
Maddie.
Kaylee. Kaylee was our child.
She was kind of adopted.
Maddie was, yeah.
Maddie.
Yeah. So it's crazy how things happen. We don't know why it happened in Moscow, Idaho, why it happened to our daughter, why it happened to her house. We'll never know, but it's our life now. Our lives are
That's
changed.
one time I did go after Thompson really hard, where they were so warning me. I said, "I'll tell you what, motherfucker."
You're right, Lady Original Sophia. I don't. So, Jeff, you are entitled to your opinion. It's just not something I believe in. It's sorry, I don't believe in the death penalty. That's just my stance on it. Not at all. Doesn't matter what somebody's done. You don't have the right to take a human life at all. But yeah, Sister Bluebird, that is going to what they're talking about now. They've always made this about Maddie being their child. This is what rubs me up very badly with them. That is a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah, this is.
But we'll go down
very
there.
Weird. Very weird.
If I find out what he did, and I find it in a book, and he prophesied, I'm going to come find you. And I, Steve, and I said, all right, so we're going to have a talk. I'll come talk to him.
Yeah.
Because he's like, Steve, you're never going to get this. You're never going to find the truth. He's never going to tell us what I did. And I said, you don't know this case like I do. He's already went to a place where he learned about BTK, making a book, did it with the girl that taught the class, and then she put the money on his books. And guess what? He's got $40,000 on his books today. And he's gonna,
He has $40,000 on his books.
$40,000 we can't touch. And he's gonna write.
What about the civil fine that the court imposed? They can't
The
garnish that?
$5,000 that he owes us?
Yeah.
Yeah. They can't touch that. The commissary. It has to be money that he earns in prison. So when he starts working or gets
He
a
can
job
use that for legal representation,
50.
and we can't take away his rights to get his own legal representation. So if he says, I'm using that money to fund my appeal.
There's nothing.
He waived those.
Yeah,
That's one thing he did right.
waived the
That was
appellate
good.
rights,
Yeah.
which is there's nothing to appeal when you plead guilty. You give up all those rights. That's why the judge engages in that colloquy.
Yeah.
Are you sure it was what you're
All
doing?
these different-
Are you?
Okay, I'm gonna make a comment here. Is he drunk? Is he
It
drunk?
looks like it, doesn't it? You're right. I was thinking because their reactions to things and their expressions.
Can't even stand up straight.
Yeah.
But anyway, go on about what they're saying. He gave up his right to an appeal.
Yeah, giving up. Yeah, that we know that's not true. Clearly, you have a post-conviction relief. You have your habeas corpus. But
Sorry, this
yeah.
guy is sozzled.
Yeah, you're right. They are in. This is in Las Vegas. Is that what it is? I don't know where the
Yeah,
conference
no,
is held.
they spent a little bit of too much time in that VIP lounge before doing this.
Yeah. They're happy grieving parents, unfortunately, and at least in this car. And I'm not making mocking. Anyone who's lost a child. I feel for them. So,
I do. No, I mean I do, but
just something is off about this whole
something is very off with this family. We're gonna get into this. Sister Bluebird did send me quite a few things today, which we will still go through. But that's a whole other story. So they say he gave up his right to an appeal. Listen to this part and then you can comment on it.
You understand the rights you have. There's no going to be. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why they do that. So you can't come back and say, "Oh, I didn't do it." Only thing you can say is my attorneys weren't effective, and that's never going to fly.
Yeah, and that's why we never have a tactical situation.
I'm telling you.
Well, that new book that just came out, that Broken Plea book, literally really throws Ann under the bus, making it look like just a horrible.
What do you think about that? An expert witness, a paid witness, taking that and then writing a book with it and just making a mockery of the whole fucking system.
He would never work for me again. I assure you of that.
Right?
Listen, I've seen a lot of attorneys. I've seen ineffective claims. I've had ineffective claims made against me, and none's ever stuck. That's what they do. They go off to prison. They try to come up with something. My attorney didn't. They didn't explain this to me. I would have made this decision. No, they went to the ends of the earth. They had 3-4 attorneys on the team. All the experts. Money was not an object. The court said, if you need more money to get this done, we're going to do it.
There wasn't money on our side. I literally talked to the Shadow Dragon, and he's like, Steve, I had the connection, but he is not getting my report unless he pays for it, and he refused to pay me.
Which Shadow Dragon kind of sucked. He wanted $10,000 for it.
And then the Cellbrite people were like, we tried to get him to pay, and he wouldn't pay us, so we just did it for free.
Well, good on Celebrate.
Yeah, but two people saying the same thing.
Yeah, the Shadow Dragon guy is like, you know what? Screw that guy. That kind of pisses me off. Like, he literally had information that could blow this case out of the water and was like, I'm not going to give it.
Volunteering could make it to where every case is going to run into that outfit. The prosecutor had a
do the right thing.
He could have just went to us and said, go privately fund it. And we could have gotten it done. He's just not the kind. He's not a lead prosecutor.
We get it. You don't like the prosecutor. We get it.
I've criticized him. I thought he was a little soft, and like I said, I think he should have required him to say, "Tell me in your own words what you did. Make that plea bulletproof and take away any doubt, so anybody, all these pro Kobergers can say, oh, he didn't do it. No, you heard it from his own mouth. You heard it from his mouth when he said guilty. It was over.
I told him I don't want to defend your case for the rest of my life. And that's what you'll do to all these families. We'll have to defend this because you'll move on and retire, and we'll be stuck with this shit for the rest of our lives. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah,
so now I will take every shot at him because he earned it. And he had a right to do whatever he wanted to do. And now he just lives with his decisions. That's what he's doing right now.
Well,
I understand. I understand. Well,
can't go back. There's no changing it.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Seriously.
I was like, Steve, who is that? We know him. Who is that guy? And he's like, oh, he's the lawyer. I'm like, yes, that's who it is.
Well, thanks for taking the time. Seriously, we'll put this up. Hopefully, people will, understand. Like I said, I couldn't imagine losing a child. And so, my guilty, he admitted to it.
Yeah.
And so all the people say, oh, he pled guilty.
Yeah.
People don't plead guilty to that.
Not to that.
Unless they did it.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
waive their
appeal with DNA in the crime scene. You might as well appeal every case in the whole fucking system then.
There's nothing to appeal.
We go broke. I could challenge you that my DNA was at the crime scene and it matched me at 5.37 octillion. I still got a case. No, you don't. Because that opens everything up. You gotta have common sense.
I said, as soon as the DNA came out, I was like, it's done. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
No, you did.
I really.
You're like, well, we got something to talk about today. Nobody made a plea or asked for a plea. Yeah.
We knew it was. I called it. Said it was coming, man.
No.
I said they were. I literally said when the DNA came back, I said, I guarantee you, those defense attorneys are over there talking to the DA about a deal. You can go back and look at the videos. I said it because that's what I do for a living. And so at a certain point, you're like, okay, what can we do? Yeah. And sure enough, it came.
The most you can do it.
That's the goal of all death. I've only done one death penalty case, and they actually didn't go death, and we still went to trial and we lost. But that's the goal of death penalty litigation, is to no death.
Yes.
And so they think we won.
Yeah.
Because he's still around.
Mm-hmm.
She made $2 million off the case. She won. She did.
I've never made $2 million off a single murder case. Usually I had to sue a client. I walked on a murder case. I had to sue him to get paid my final bill. Said I prepared too much.
She was making $200 an hour. And her legal counsel was like 180. I'm like, wow. Idaho's got to get more capital case murder attorneys.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough. Yeah. So she had to come out, and everything was overtime. She had to leave her community, which where we live, Kootenai, go down there and represent him. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sorry for your loss, but you guys are making a difference. So
thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
So, okay, your comments, Big Amish. I'm going to try and play that other one that you sent. What's your comments on that?
Well, they're talking about, and I don't know if you passed over some of it regarding the.
Yeah, so there was a part where they talked about the Alfred's
plea.
plea. Yeah, sorry, I must have skipped over that. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. But we know what it was, you know, that. So if we could just talk about that a second, and then you could play that other part.
Mm-hmm.
What he said in this interview, and I think his wife was off to the side. It was just him and Scott talking. Is that the Alfred plea was basically being pushed on them, and right, and it was talking about how it was the last, you know, basically at the end where they were taking the plea, that it was being pushed, and he had to rally the troops to oppose it. I think that was the term he used. Steve G. I'm just paraphrasing. Hopefully, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
wrong on this. But so when he's talking about that, so an Alfred plea is so you can maintain your innocence, even if you didn't do the crime, that you would accept the penalty if it's in your best interest to do so. So if you
Mm-hmm.
go back to and this is how I got involved in the case, I saw that allocution, and it was so skeletal that it raised questions in my mind. And
Okay.
what I mean by skeletal is he didn't discuss, you know, the how, when, and what. He just said there were basically yes or no questions. Did you commit the crime? You know, burglary and the 4 homicides. He said yes,
Mm-hmm.
and he accepted his guilt. Right. That doesn't mean. So that's what I mean by skeletal. Usually, you're going to have, you know, a confession of how he committed the crime. Each crime, you'd go into detail about things to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But in this
And
case, he had nothing.
their argument was that they couldn't trust him to be truthful, but yet you trusted him to be truthful when he said yes 4 times. So which one is it?
Yeah.
Either you trust him or you don't.
Yes. If you're accepting the plea, at least let him explain what happened. It's for the victims' families as well to understand it. If you're accepting the plea, as the prosecution did, right, and you're presenting it to the judge to get affirmed, you're basically, yeah. I mean, if you're not believing him, what I mean, it runs afoul of the whole criminal justice system and everyone's rights. Basically, it's being made a mockery. So why wouldn't you do it? Because it falls exactly as an Alfred plea would happen if, this is the caveat again, this is just my opinion, that and there's a history in the case of using sealed um, court sessions. So it's my opinion, at least it appears to me, that you could have a public allocution that's skeletal, and you have
Mhm.
a private sealed courtroom session in which that Alfred plea is actually then documented. You could have two things happening. Okay, one is public, one is private. That's sealed. That's just my opinion. And
Mhm.
everything that happened suggests that. And we talked about this before the conference. And then you have Steve G stating how the Alfred plea was being pushed on them, and how they didn't want to do it, but it was being pushed on them. Now, in this other video you're going to play, you're going to hear Steve G talk about how they were forced to accept the worst plea imaginable. So what could be the worst plea imaginable? And he goes on to, if you just, it allows you to fill in the dots on this when you hear his interview, and which is brief. But to me, it suggests that there was a public and a private allocution. The public that we saw, which was very skeletal, and you had that private, sealed courtroom session. Because many of the courtroom hearings were sealed, were private. So that's my belief.
Very possible. It's just strange that he brought it up. But you know, Jeff, you're saying here that you want to know the truth of what happened, but also saying that, and I'm not attacking you. Pretty sure if they allowed Brian to speak openly, he would have said some very hurtful things. But you know, that's the whole point of an allocution. I
Yes.
don't think they would have gone that route anyway. They would have asked him questions, probably saying, tell us something that we haven't released to the media, something that only the perpetrator would know. Where is the weapon? How did you get in and out without leaving any bodily fluids? Where did you park your vehicle? How did you
Something.
know which rooms to go to? I mean, the list goes on and on.
Because even the judge knew that there was such public scrutiny, such devoid issues of fairness, and placing BK at the crime scene. And we know Thompson even said there's nothing tying him to the victims or the home. Well, don't you think the public, let alone the victims' families, are entitled, and the public,
Yeah.
after all these years, to know one thing?
One
Where,
thing, yeah,
where
I
did you
can't
put the?
see them allowing everything. But then in the same breath, Steve says, well, we want to know everything. So which one is it?
You can't have it. And the reason he doesn't want to know, it raises a whole other issue. What really happened? Why didn't they push that? If he was so powerful in his opposition, it would make perfect sense. So let's say you had a private, because they did have private sessions with Hitler on court hearings. You have the public version on the motions, for example, but where the victims' families could have spoken out and say, at least give us this, Your Honor. We'll accept a plea, but give us this so we know. And the reason you don't have that is, if you look at it from a legal position, the reason you don't have it is, in my opinion, is because it is an Alford plea. Because he couldn't tell you, because he didn't use a knife. He didn't do it. But could he
Yeah.
have been there? Could have been part of it? Sure. But my position is that he couldn't have done it. That's why the allocution was as it was. It was lacking, devoid of the weapon used, the manner, how he got in. Did he use a sliding door and just happenstance just popped in with a balaclava and everything that one of the witnesses suggested? Why not say, yeah, I was wearing this when I came in and burglarized their home? Why didn't they say that? At least that's not even
Exactly.
there.
It's something. I don't think it would have been graphic.
Yeah.
There
It's
is
missing.
something that we'll go into in future videos as we talk, because as I mentioned to you, I do find this very ritualistic. So
Yes.
Sister Bluebird, yeah, you're quite right. He actually did the right thing by not verbalizing anything, because one, not only is it because he has a doctorate in criminology, but if you look at the legal system, it's very corrupt. Okay. And it's very demonic. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I think
Okay.
Brian was onto them, and he knew that by talking, he would become part of the ritual. So,
And that could very well be.
mhm.
That could very well be, because
That's just a theory that I have, is when you realize what they're doing. So that needs a lot more explanation. It's one part of it is that if you talk or you you agree, Evan, or make any kind of statement when there is a ritual murder happening, then you become part of it. So that is why he declined. That, and there are many other reasons why I think he was pretty smart in not talking. Because also the other thing is that, let's take ritual off the table, is that he knew that anything he says can and will be used against him. Doesn't matter what he says,
Yes.
it's going to be used against him.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. And it can, and it would. But that's why it blends in to so many, to certain possibilities. But again, not to hammer my position on it. Don't forget, Josh Hurwitz was there. So if you
Oh,
have these
yes, he was
closed,
in the courtroom.
yeah. So if you have these closed sessions, it also allows for that WITSEC protection to be initiated behind in chambers or in a closed court session.
I'd love to
Because
hope that is, I would love to hope that is
yeah,
what happened
because
with him.
yeah, that's how it would have to happen. So the state basically agrees, and they have an agreement with the feds. Don't forget he stepped down from that, but he would have all that knowledge, right? And that would have been discussed. In my narrative as to what happened. So one is that he took that Alford plea, that remains, he could still maintain his innocence. That could still be brought about, but he needed to get that WITSEC protection because don't forget, and you pointed it out, we saw both Steve G mention something bad to happen to
Mm-hmm.
BK, but also was it Olivia or Dina? I forgot who it was who mentioned him as a pedophile, which creates a target for you once you're in prison. But
Oh,
we know
yes.
he's in protective custody, which is a way to transition to WITSEC. So there's indicia that suggests that he may be in that program or en route to it. So that's my position on it.
That could be. I guess we're gonna have to see in the next few weeks. Do you want me to play this video
Yes,
you sent
please.
me?
That would be great. Yes,
Let
if
me
you
see
can.
if I can do that. Okay, hold on. Let me go back here. Okay, I have to do that. There we go. I think it's there.
Okay.
Just gonna make it a little bit bigger, full screen. Can you guys still see me? Okay, I'm just gonna play an ad first.
Okay.
He caved into him. He negotiated with him. He asked him for terms.
Go
He
back.
took
Sorry,
all
I'm
the
gonna
strength
miss.
that he could have had and he gave it away.
Disappointment. Discuss disappointment and the journey to reclaim strength.
Because I had somebody who manipulated all the families and got what he wanted, which was the weakest way to deal with this killer. He didn't stand up to a bully. He caved into him. He negotiated with him. He asked him for terms. He took all the strength that he could have had and he gave it away and he groveled. He got on his knees. He begged for this guy to literally do this plea deal. And it's disgusting. And he just let us down. And we hope to fix the story when it's all said and done. But today it is what it is. And we do these kind of interviews to let people know where we stand.
Yeah.
That's that one. Okay. Did it play correctly?
Yeah, I mean, he says right there. I mean, who was pushing it? It was Thompson, or
Yeah.
yeah, he's pushing it on a deal that they didn't want. the weakest possible deal. So what could it be? I mean, if someone's taking a plea and and having pleading guilty to 4 homicides and the burglary, that's not necessarily a weak deal, because your sentencing is going to be a very lengthy one. So what was he really saying, and what kind of terms would be pushed? To me, it makes sense. At least it appears it's a possibility that that's where the Alford plea came. And then you have what he stated recently at CrimeCon. So we know that the Alford plea was pushed. Just a question of, was it accepted or not? and in the scenario I mentioned.
Oh wow! You know what? It's so puzzling. But as you mentioned, I think, guys, a lot of things are going to come out in this now before September, because as we understand, post-conviction relief is going to happen. I believe the 2nd of September. That's the deadline, correct?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yes, I think it's 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Yeah, early September. I can't remember the date, but you're right.
So yeah, there's going to be a lot in Big Amish. Well, sorry, give me a second. We will probably do quite a few lives before then, because there's a lot of things that are coming out. I don't know who has read the book. If you have, then you can comment in it.
Yeah, no, I haven't finished. I have not read the whole. I read the first maybe 10 pages of it yet. And thank you for sending me that. So I do need to read
Okay,
it.
if anybody, oh no, pleasure. Does anybody want a copy of the book? Maybe if you don't have a copy, then let me know, and I can always send you a copy of it. I prefer to read the actual book, so we can discuss the book also, but there are a lot of other things that me and Big Amish are talking about. Wow, as we start talking about it, we'll bring the next subject and the next subject. And Sister Bluebird, also, thank you for everything that you sent me. I really appreciate that. Did I lose Big Amish there?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
no, it's
sorry,
just
I
having
think I lost
a
him for a
drink of
second.
water. Yeah.
No, it's fine. So there are going to be quite a few things that we'll be talking about. And Jeff, it's actually not about being a pro burger at all. You are entitled to opinion, but for us here, we're not even, it's not about being a pro burger or being, okay, we all for Brian. This is really about the fact that this whole investigation was mishandled, and there's so many questions and there's so many things that don't really add up, that it goes on and on and on and on.
Yes. Yes. What role? Certainly, there's a lot that's raised. I remember, was I on Birdie? I think I spoke to him many months ago, and on Outcast, how I felt that BK, either got the job but was embedded, into the task force and used in that capacity. I don't necessarily want to go off on a tangent here, but I believe he had a security clearance. He used, and once you get that security clearance, top secret security clearance, he had signed that SF 312 form, which is a non-disclosure agreement. So it's more than just being, part of a task force. And this is something I'm going to send to you as Wendy. I have some additional information that makes sense as to why I believe he had a top secret security clearance. It was cleared already. even before he got to WSU and teaching.
Really?
Yeah. It'll I could be wrong, but I'll send you that information. You tell me what you think. But I believe I can make a credible case as to, his involvement. And once you're in that task force, how you could, even though it was Pullman's, for example, you could be a federal asset and still, you're hired through that Pullman PD and getting that grant money for that position. But if you have what we discussed, that having that top security clearance and being a federal asset, your obligations are split. Your obligation is to protect that operation. So if you're involved in a federal operation, let's say, and is he using a system? Let's just use that. I'm just going to use generic terms. If he has access to a federal system that others don't, it becomes sources and means that need to be protected.
Do you have
Yeah.
what you think is probably good proof of that?
I think I have something that would at least present itself as to how he would have that. It's not a superficial clearance. It's not just a background check. I have something to present to you that would suggest that he got this well before he was teaching in August of 2022 as a teaching
wow.
assistant. I'll make a
That
plausible.
that would be very interesting.
Yes, yeah, and why? So, but I'll just raise that. But it's something I don't think anyone's discussed, but it's something, and I have it. I'll send that to you as soon as we're done. But I need to finalize it. But I'll send you the raw data, and I think I made a simple presentation. I'll just in slides to send you. But why it makes perfect sense. And don't forget
Well,
this.
yeah, she's.
Yeah, this could be very, very interesting. On what
I think so. I think it could be. The more I look into this, the more I figure out things, and I'm probably the more questions I have.
yeah. Yes, and don't forget on your issue with the occult issue, you know, and we talked about it on your last show. At least there's a connection. Scott Green is an accountant, and he thrived on Wall Street. He ran 2 law firms, involved in Wall Street. So he wasn't a lawyer; he was an accountant, but he knew how to raise funds and get things done on Wall Street, bringing companies public or raising capital. And one of the law firms he worked for, one of the clients, one of them is Leon Black, and he's in the Jeffy Epi files. Mark Rowan is in the files as well. But Mr. Black had given Jeffy Epi about $170 million in
170 million.
$170 million. Leon Black. And he's in the Jeffy Epi files.
Ugh.
So, and I'm just saying, Scott Green is the CEO of this law firm. And someone who has that amount of money is going to be a well-regarded client. And you're going to know those big-time players.
How much did you say was
Approximately
given?
$170 million.
Wow.
So, and I would assume if you're a CEO of the company, of that law firm, you're going to know about a transaction like that. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just food for thought. What do you think? Are you going to know about your clients handing over that much money to other individuals? And would you know those other individuals who happen to be accountants in title, at least? Right? So Scott Green's an accountant. Jeffy Epi is an alleged accountant with no background in it. Was able to obtain from a client belonging to the law firm run by Scott Green to give $170 million to Jeffy Eppy
You. That is a lot of
for
money.
accounting work.
What kind of accounting work costs
Uh,
$170 million is the
that,
question.
yeah, that I don't know. We need to dig in. I've not touched the Jeffy Eppy files directly, but I was able to garnish that, and you could do the research on it on different ways. That'll pop up. His name is Leon Black. Was there?
Yeah, I'm going to
and
actually
he,
do a
yeah,
dig into it. I'm going to make a note now.
yeah.
Tony, we are going to talk about Steve's brother as well. I wonder how he feels uh, with the testing, because that's actually not how they caught his brother. But
Whose brother? I'm sorry.
Steve Goncalves' brother is in prison.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I did not know that. Okay. And for what?
Yeah, murder.
Oh, oh wow. This is okay.
Yes, pretty well known.
I didn't know. I
The
apologize.
whole
That's why
family's
I've been
got
away
some
from.
shady dealings. I'll discuss with you. Um, but yeah, I think he killed a homeless man or something. Was it? Somebody correct me in the chat. I'll have to go back on my notes. But yes, he is in prison.
Does
There
he
in
have any
Idaho.
Does he have a history of product
I'll have
pushing
to
or?
go check. Steve Gonzalez also has a bit of a violent history. So does Olivia Gonzalez. She was arrested more than once. Domestic violence.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now you okay? I never looked into the backgrounds of. So this is something new for me, and the brother,
So
and the
Sean, I'm
brother,
correct. It was a handicapped guy. Yeah. Wow. So
and for what reason? It was just. Did
okay,
he?
thank you, Sister Bluebird. I wasn't sure about that. I'm still reviewing that, what you sent me. But I did know that he was in prison, but I didn't know all the details. I was going down that hole. But okay, so his brother was homeless, which is kind of weird also. Um, that okay, and he killed a wheelchair bound man. Now look, I'm not going to blame Steve for it, but it's also kind of weird that he's homeless considering how much money that family has.
If something's not right there either. You would think it would
Yeah,
help out your brother, but maybe not. Maybe it just.
it's
That's
how
very
families
interesting.
go. But look, Sister Bluebird sent me some stuff. Just check out. I did send you the book, so have a look at if you did get it. But that is very, very sad, and we'll go into that if you don't mind. I can review it and then get Big Amish's opinion on a lot of it as well.
That would be great. Oh, could I
So
go? Could I go back to Leon Black? One thing to just tie it up.
sure,
I forgot
sure.
the and it ties into the potential purchase when they were doing their due diligence and trying to acquire the University of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
The University of Phoenix was owned by what we talked about, Apollo Global Management of the
Yes.
Citria. Well, guess who sat as one of the board members of Apollo Global Management was Leon Black. So it just
Wow.
raises questions. I don't know where they lead. I don't know what it is, but Leon Black, who we described giving the money to Jeffy Eppy, and probably, in my estimation, it appear that someone, a CEO of a large law firm like that, being in New York at the time, knowing
Mm-hmm.
the Wall Street players, would know Leon Black and who he would be giving his money to, because you would want to protect your clients,
Yeah.
or at least some of the attorneys within the firm would know. So, but it
Wow.
begs the
Lucy,
question.
whatever you find as well, you're welcome to share with us. There is a mail in the channel description. So
Okay.
there's got to be something a lot bigger behind all of this, as we talked about in this parallel investigation in the last video, that they were investigating something much larger.
Yeah. There's no doubt, and I don't think there's any doubt, because we know federal subpoenas were used. We know that as a
Mhm.
fact. So, and the only way federal subpoenas are issued is if there's a grand jury impaneled. So, if there's a grand jury impaneled to issue federal subpoenas, that only comes from a federal courthouse. The question is, was it a federal courthouse in Idaho? Was it a federal courthouse in
Mhm.
Washington? We don't know, because those subpoenas are still sealed, the actual subpoenas that were issued. And the subpoenas would list the crime on it to provide the basis of seeking that information. So
Mhm.
we know
Very
that.
possible. So is there any way that they will ever unseal them? I doubt it.
Well, we don't know what happened. So if there's a grand jury panel, did they ever indict? So you could have a grand jury just for investigative purposes. When did it start? Did it exist prior? We don't know. Did they indict somebody or more than one person? We don't know. Because the investigation's one thing, right? And we know on the state side, the state of Idaho prosecuted Brian Koberger. But on the federal side that issued the subpoenas, did they ever indict anybody? Or was it just an investigative tool? We don't know. But we also don't know what crimes they were looking at. So was it just a homicide? Was it just, because that is a local issue? It would have to
Yeah, I
fall.
don't think it would just be that. It has to
It,
be something bigger.
yeah, well,
Substances, human
well,
trafficking.
sure. You need federal jurisdiction. So federal jurisdiction would be, for example, pharmaceutical products, illicit drugs, human trafficking, as you point out, hate crimes,
Mhm.
extortion, kidnapping.
I definitely believe that. Guys,
You know,
if you want to actually go and watch a channel that's also very good, watch Big Amish, but also go and watch Love Giga's channel. This is he shows some really really frightening stuff on that channel, and I believe that it ties into what you're saying, Big Amish.
okay.
I
Well,
don't know if you've watched any of these videos,
no, but I will.
but
I will. I definitely will.
they're quite fascinating. So
We'll get back into this. No, this is it's passionate for me to look into this, because we're
he
all
pretty much
looking.
shows
Yeah.
what he sees happening. And I always had this theory that this did not happen inside the house. And then a few months later, I came across his channel, had quite a chat with him as well. And I think if you look at what he's uncovered, it is really scary. So I'm going to just type it in the chat for anyone that wants to go and have a look quickly.
Yeah. And by the way, maybe you could I know we talked about this before we went on live, but does anyone know about a video that was put out regarding possible firearm flashes at 1112 King Road?
Oh, thanks for reminding me
Yeah.
that. Yes, I was waiting to see if Roller Motor was in the chat, but he didn't. He's probably out doing something today.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great if we could figure that out. I'm on another hunt for some for another narrative. But oh, actually, I think I did see Love Gigahertz's channel. One fairly recent. I think there was one, but yeah, if I remember correctly, I liked his channel. I just need to look at the rest. He had a lot of videos and a lot of good ones.
It's a little bit different than what we're doing is talking. So he kind of shows the evidence that he sees, and very hard to argue against everybody. Just yeah, if you have time, go and look at some of his. There's a few shorts, there's a few videos, and yeah, very interesting actually. It pretty much proves that this didn't happen inside. I don't know how to paste the link in the chat. There's one here. Maybe I could paste it. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, you can go and have a look. Let me see if I can share the channel in the chat. If any of you want to go have a look, give me a sec.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll go back. We'll go back to the. Let's do this. Let's see. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing his channel, but I doubt that he will. Let's see. I doubt that he'll have a problem. Just tag him in it. Okay, there we go, guys. Yeah, there's the link. You can have a look.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to leave it at that, and then Big Amish will be in touch. Hopefully, we can get to do another live. I'll see what I can dig up this week, and between you and I, and we'll.
Sounds great, and thank you for being a
So
wonderful
guys, always
host,
just
as always.
look on the live chat. I'm so sorry I haven't done any actual video uploads lately. With everything going on, I'm really not getting a lot of time to edit. So that's why I'm just doing a lot of live chats, but hopefully I will get chance to edit once things settle down on this side. Thank you to everyone for being here. I really appreciate all of you. Even if we look, we don't always agree on all the details, and I think it's because a lot of us were not there. So we're just trying to figure out what happened. Even if somebody believes that Brian is guilty, I'm not going to shoot them down because I wasn't there. My belief is that he was absolutely not. But, we are entitled to ask questions.
Sharing ideas. And doing it respectfully. That's all. We respect one another.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to just figure out what happened in this case. And remember, I mean, these are victims. So
Yes, there are victims, no doubt about it. You're right.
and when I say victims, I don't only mean the 4 victims. I mean also, Brian, if he's in prison, then obviously we have to think about his family as well. I did start doing a little bit of a deep dive on Brian Koberger and his family. So that'll be something that I'll also want to talk about because, wow.
That would
Lucy,
be
okay,
great.
did you also post something in the chat? See what Lucy put in the chat. Oh, yes. Okay, so guys, go click on that link. Wow. It says, are you going to use the new amazing foundation to test the hair in the Idaho case? And then they responded, if it was true, I would, but you can kindly go fuck yourself. This is the Goncalves family. Well, classy. Thanks for that, Lucy. I thought I was the only one that liked showing people the middle finger. Please. Okay. Wow.
Well, it seems like the Goncalves family, at least the Steve and Kristi are going to be on a tour pushing the, and I guess one of the labs they're talking about is Othram. So, and the owner of Othram has tons of money. So they're going to be going around a circuit, I guess.
Of course, yeah. And the hair, I mean, it's real. Like, you can kindly go fuck yourselves. There's a little hillbilly town here in South Africa, and I kind of think they fit in real well there. It's kind of one of those towns where people don't wear shoes and nobody has teeth. I don't know if you have those places in America, but it's like really, what's the English word? I'm trying to think. Sorry, guys, if I talk slow. I'm trying to think of the English way of saying it. But here in South Africa, we say, "Alles rof en onbeskof." And it basically means that they just, yeah. You know, when you drive through that town, it's wild. I'm telling you, you'll see cockroaches running out of people's buildings because people, yeah, no, even they have pride. It's like really a rough place. So something tells me this family would fit in pretty well there.
Well,
It's a wild place. Oh gosh, it can make you laugh. They actually made a documentary on it.
yeah.
Quite funny. But anyway, going off topic. But thank you, Big Amish. I really appreciate
No,
you being on the channel.
thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
And thank everyone.
And
Love and peace to all.
yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. It is.
Yep.
It's always great to have all of you here. And so yeah, we'll be doing a lot more videos. Oh, is this the Bluebird? Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much what happens in that town. Yeah. Not even that, only even poor animals are scared. That kind of place.
Infestation.
Oh, it's just wild. Wild. Oh gosh.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, goodbye everyone. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.